Welcome to Sleek Notes E-Commerce Boost Podcast, your chance to learn from the e-commerce experts so you can boost your business.
Welcome back to E-Commerce Boost and the second part of my interview with Fishkin. In this episode, you'll find out why search investments aren't necessarily SEO or PPC, what content marketing opportunities you might be missing out on, and finally, Rand's best advice to overcome the cultural conditioning. If you haven't listened to the first episode, I'll highly recommend you to do so. But for now, let's just jump straight back into the interview. I think a lot of the listeners as well are going to find this one interesting because your fourth bias or myth was that search investments are either SEO or PPC. Why is that not the case?
Right. So I think this is really classic. You know, what many of us who are familiar with Google think of it as, okay, I can either try and rank in the organic results, which is sort of the 10 blue links, or I can try and rank in the paid search results, which are basically, you know, the AdWords program. But in fact, as I showed at the event, there's a significant amount of clicks and a huge amount of attention going to neither of those. What in the search world we've generally called SERP features, search engine result page features. And these are things like the featured snippet, the image results, the video results, the news results, the one box answers, the knowledge graph, all of the knowledge panels, and you know, about, I think, a total of 19 different kinds of SERP features that are not, you know, classic organic results that are just website links, or AdWords, right, the paid results.
Yeah.
And so I showed a bunch of examples of ways to get into some of those different kinds of results and the popularity of some of those, including image search, which is absolutely huge, just mind-bogglingly huge, and I think an extremely ignored channel by most web marketers right now, despite the fact that Google Images has been around for forever. I don't think not anyone, but so few people pay attention to the potential value that can be driven there, especially because Google has stopped a lot of the traffic from being sent directly when you click the image in the image search results. And so people just get the impression that it can't get traffic there, but it is possible. And I showed some cool examples of that from, especially with like a furniture website and a few other examples where image searches actually are very, very popular in a space. Another big one, which is happening right now, is Halloween costumes in the United States, which is
because you showed a great example, and that really made me wonder why no one is really doing this, adding text to the image and then leading them to the site that way.
That's right. Yeah. So you can like layer the text onto the image and essentially present almost it's sort of like a call to action on the visual that can help send traffic to your website if you can get that image ranking in Google's image results. And so it's pretty cool what some folks, some very, very small number of innovative marketers have figured out on this.
That is really, I think that's like a pro tip. Add text to your images.
For sure. This is not easy to execute on, right? You have to go do a bunch of keyword research, figure out which features appear in your search results, and then sort of organize by prioritization, right? And say, okay, these are the most important keywords. What are the SERP features that appear? Well, it looks like it's a lot of featured snippets. Okay, let's go do some research into what causes featured snippets. I pointed to some reference articles from Dr. Pete on Moz, where he's done a bunch of stuff in there. And then you can add that content and that structure to your pages and potentially rank in those featured snippets, even if you're not ranking in the top position in Google, which is really cool because then you outrank everyone else, even though you haven't earned as many links or as much, ranking signals. And so there's just a ton of potential there.
That's great. You also pointed out that another cultural bias, I'm just moving on now, is that content marketing only means publishing on your own site. Why is that a bias?
Yeah, I think that when people hear the term content marketing, they think, okay, we should start a blog or we should start a series of articles or, a news feed on our site. And that is a way to do content marketing. But I think that very few folks think about it as, wait a minute, we should take our brand, our content, our message, whatever, and turn that into content that can appear across the web. And wherever that can become visible, that's where we're going to play. And it doesn't matter if it's exclusively on our site or not. And so I think places like, I showed a few examples, but Quora, Medium, YouTube, subreddits, LinkedIn, right? All of these places that essentially allow you to publish on them, and then millions more that exist in every individual niche, have very, very high potential. I showed that again with the image search example, where publishing your image result or the images you want to rank for on Pinterest with a properly tagged board can result in your brand being very, very visible in those image search results, because Pinterest images happen to rank extremely well, extraordinarily well, in certain types of Google image searches. And so, yeah, just lots of potential to think about, to not be trapped by this idea that content marketing means I publish only on my site.
So you're all in for guest posting?
Yeah, I mean, I think guest posting is a little too narrow of a definition. Guest posting is like one tactic in the multitude of realms of things that you could do that are publishing your content and getting your brand out there across many platforms on the web. But yes, I am in favor of guest posting when it is the right sort of guest posting and the right platform and the right audience. I think that you can really expand content marketing to say it is publishing everywhere and anywhere that your audience goes.
Maybe that was just me being biased there.
No, that's totally fair. I think a lot of people do think about that, right?
Yeah.
When they think of publishing off their site, they assume I mean like, oh, sure, I'll write a guest post on Forbes.
Yeah.
And that's way, way, way too small of a way to think about that opportunity.
Here comes the sixth marketing myth. Google ranking only equals links, keywords, and technical issues. Rand explains what other inputs in the search results that helps you rank better that has nothing to do with keywords and links.
I think many SEOs have started to notice, especially over the last 3-4 years, as Google sort of switched to this, machine learning first model, that there is another set of very big and powerful ranking inputs in the results that has to do with user behavior. And so the way to think about this is, let's say we perform a search for, dining room tables. And not just us, right? Many thousands of people every day perform a search for dining room tables on Google. And ranking in, result number 4 is randstables.com. And ranking in result number 7 is juliestables.com. And a lot of people, when they perform a search, they click on randstables.com. And in the first few seconds of browsing the site, they sort of realize like this website's ugly, sort of annoying. It gives me a bunch of pop-ups and tries to capture my email address before it ever lets me buy anything. And I don't really like the selection here. So they click the back button within 3 or 4 seconds. They're just kind of out of there.
Yeah.
And they scroll down and they see something very compelling about the Julie's Tables listings, right? It has a very compelling title and a compelling meta description. It seems to feature, the kinds of things that they want. And so they're very engaged. As soon the page loads extremely quickly. It's a great user experience, a great UI, has really great selection, lets them filter really easily. They sort of accomplish their task there really, really well. Right? Many people go all the way through the purchase process. They never end up back at Google, don't have to do any more searches. You've sort of captured their interest and attention and taken them all the way through the problem. You've accomplished the searcher's task. Over time, what we see is that juliestables.com, even if you don't get more links, even if you don't do a better job with keyword targeting, even if your content doesn't improve, even if none of the other ranking signals improve, you'll probably rise in the rankings pretty fast from that, the signal that you are serving the user better than the other results.
Yeah.
And that sort of ranking is not something that SEOs are used to. It's not something web marketing teams are used to, right? The usability consultants and the designers and the developers, they're not used to SEOs saying, hey, guess what? I need to be all up in your business trying to mess with the whole experience of the website. But in fact, that's a big ranking factor now. And so I think SEOs need to take their practice into the entirety of the product marketing and web development cycles in order to have the maximum impact they can.
It's getting more intelligent, isn't it?
It is. It's getting much more intelligent. And the way it's getting intelligent is by relying on all of us and all of our browsing and searching and clicking and task accomplishing behavior to learn what works and what doesn't.
Great. So the seventh and the last bias, when Google takes your search traffic, you can't earn it back. What's the problem with this statement?
Yeah, so I think a lot of folks, when they see something like a Google providing an instant answer, right, an answer above the fold before any of the results, or Google putting a tremendous number of ads above the fold, or Google putting a knowledge graph result, or the knowledge cards, the list of things that either scroll horizontally across the top or in mobile results vertically. Folks feel like, well, I'm kind of out of the game, right? I can't play in those types of results. I don't have the ability to do that. But in fact, what I was arguing and showing a bunch of examples of is that in fact you can influence almost all of these things through different forms of, essentially SEO, but broad web marketing, right? You can influence search suggest with branding campaigns. You can influence the knowledge graph by getting other sites to write about you or your products or your brand in certain ways. You can influence the list results by getting included on certain lists from other third parties who cover things. You can change up the instant answers by reporting those or through the featured snippet box or other methods. And so there's a lot more ways to play, even when Google has taken your traffic. YouTube's another good example, right? So Google sort of limited the types of video results that can show up, but you can play in those video results in very smart ways. So for example, as Moz does, right, what we'll do is we'll publish our Whiteboard Fridays, our content on our own site. We'll host using Wistia so that we get the sort of organic rankings and we train our audience that Whiteboard Friday goes up on Moz's website first.
Yeah.
And then 3 months later, 90 days later, we'll post the same content, the same video to YouTube, to our YouTube channel. We might use a slightly different title to try and target some slightly different keywords. But usually what will happen is then, instead of the video results from YouTube dominating the search, right, and only those, we'll have the Moz result first, and YouTube will be ranking, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the page. And we obviously, our YouTube channel tells folks, if you want to see new Whiteboard Fridays when they come out, you need to subscribe on Moz, so we can kind of control that user experience. So yeah, there's a lot of ways around these problems other than just giving up and saying, well, that keyword is Google's now.
Yeah. You mentioned, I think, a list of features, maybe like 16 every SEO should consider. Can you maybe just mention some of the top points?
Yeah, we've talked about a bunch of them already, but the featured snippet is certainly one. Image results, video results, knowledge graph and knowledge cards, what used to be called news, but is now called top stories. There's a number of others. Oh, the lists that I mentioned earlier. There is Google does the related searches at the bottom of the page, and the people also ask box, which is also for many types of searches that ranks pretty high, that people also ask. And those results, when you click on them, they basically drop down, and a single result, only one result, will appear inside there. And you can also claim those results through certain kinds of SEO. So yeah, there's just a ton of opportunities. And in the presentation, which you can find on SlideShare, I actually link to each of those 16 features, show how they work, and then show some, here's how you can do SEO to get into them.
Amazing. Oh yeah, is there anything you want to encourage our listeners to do as marketers? Anything, go out, do this, be better?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think we've covered a ton of those today. Yeah. I would say, my best advice might be, as people, not just as marketers, but as people, don't let cultural conditioning bias you. Don't let the ways that you were raised or the way that, society wants you to be or the way that people act around you control the way that that you believe you can be. I think that we're in a time in society when people are much more accepting. And if especially if you go to the right places, you will find that people will love you and support you no matter what your choices are about how you want to live and how you want to present yourself and how you want to be. And I hope that's something that continues and that accelerates.
Great stuff, Rand. Thank you so much for your time. Great to have you here. That was really, really interesting.
Oh, thanks for having me, Julie.
Okay, folks, this was the second and final episode of the interview with Rand Fishkin from Moz. I really hope you enjoyed it and are ready to go out and free yourself from these marketing myths and start being the absolute best you can be. If you like this podcast, don't forget to rate it in whatever app you get your podcast from. We'll be back next week. See you then.
This session of E-Commerce Boost was produced by Sleeknote. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on tactics and strategies that'll help boost your e-commerce.